Next, from Springfield, Governor Rauner and Senate Minority Leader Christine Radogno and House Minority Leader Jim Durkin hold a press conference and react to the legislature once again failing to pass a state budget. This runs about 20 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we've seen a complete dereliction of duty by the majority in the General Assembly. Once again, a tragic failure to serve the people of Illinois, a tragic failure to pass a balanced budget along with critical structural changes to protect taxpayers and grow more jobs. Instead, the majority in the General Assembly passed phony bills trying to manage phony headlines rather than solving the real problems that are facing the people of Illinois. The people of Illinois deserve better than this. The people deserve much better than this. We've got to stop just sticking it to taxpayers in the state of Illinois. We need to grow more jobs, and we need to protect our taxpayers, especially our homeowners, especially our small business owners and job creators. We have the highest property taxes in America, and we should not even be talking about tax increases unless we pass a property tax freeze along with local control of whether taxes go up or down on our property tax owners. Local control with a freeze is critically important. We should do this. We must do it. And I call on the General Assembly to stay in Springfield, come back to Springfield. Let's pass a balanced budget with meaningful change to fix our broken system. Please, members of the General Assembly and the majority, do not travel around the state holding sham hearings about a balanced budget, sham hearings that, if they were to be meaningful at all, could have and should have been held last winter when the budget discussions began for this fiscal year. Don't go through a process of just trying to create phony headlines around the state. Get here in Springfield, pass a truly balanced budget with structural changes to grow more jobs and protect our taxpayers, especially our property taxpayers. The people of Illinois deserve this. They need this. Let's get this done. With that, I'll turn it over to Leader Radogno from the Senate.
Well, thank you. I am actually deeply disappointed to be standing here today under this circumstance where we don't have a budget, and it's pretty evident that we are not going to have that budget. The message from Republicans has been clear from the very beginning that we need fundamental reforms to our state that affect the efficiencies, the tax burden that people have to endure, the changes that will make us more job-friendly. In exchange for that, we would be able to perhaps find the revenue to create a truly balanced budget for the first time ever. We actually had some success early on in the Senate, and I think the governor has recognized that, and it was a great experience, which is what makes this doubly disappointing to be here at this point. We didn't get that over the finish line. Some of the reforms that we really needed to have, the Democrats were not able to come to agreement on in time to pass it across to the House. That said, it's crystal clear to me today that even if it had gotten the House, that Speaker Madigan has absolutely no intention whatsoever of changing a single solitary thing in this state. I mean, even the school bill, the school funding reform bill that was hijacked and turned into a massive bailout from Chicago since the time it left the Senate, the business reforms, higher minimum wage, things that the business community spoke about just a few minutes ago are anti-job. The property tax relief that the Speaker referred to is something that they passed very, very late in the session 2 years ago, it never made it to the House. There's no property tax reform coming from the House, none whatsoever. And that is the one thing that we hear about from our constituents constantly. And in order to get a handle on those taxes, we're going to have to change the way we do things, and it's going to be hard because you can't easily reduce property taxes without fundamental changes. That's what we're talking about. That's what we need. Again, it's disappointing to be here at this late date without getting the important changes that we needed. But I hope we can revisit the early success we had in the Senate, where I do believe we had some good faith negotiations, and resurrect those in order to come in and get a budget and reforms before the beginning of the fiscal year. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Leader Durkin.
Thank you. I speak as an Illinois resident, a father, a husband, a taxpayer, and also a member of the General Assembly. To say I'm disappointed is an understatement. I am bitterly disappointed in what has happened these past 3 years by the failure of the Democrats in the House and Senate, their failure to work with us and with the Republican governor to pass something called a balanced budget. Bitterly disappointed, as is my caucus. So instead of doing the work they were sent here to do, members of the majority party focus more on making phony, baseless headlines than real change. They refuse to do what is necessary to pass a budget that is balanced and block change that would move the needle on job creation while protecting taxpayers. We're witnessing bills up in the House right now in which they are stating, one in particular, workmen's compensation reform. They stated in their opening argument, the sponsor, this is going to drive down cost for employers and help them grow their businesses. There are 12 business associations who are opposing the bill, and actually it will do more harm to our large manufacturers and small businessmen than good. This is how they do. This is how they operate. They pass bills that they know will fail or they will not be signed by the governor, and run around the state proclaiming that they are protecting the small guy, the businessman, or the middle class. I've heard a lot about the middle class lately. The Speaker claims that I'm not going to do anything that is going to disturb the quality of life of the middle class. Well, before the Democrats in the House proclaim their protection of the middle class, they need to apologize to them first for what they've done to them for the past 20 years.
Questions?
Governor,
Dave.
Thanks very much. Leader Radonio, I'd like you to reduce your profile the last couple of weeks, not speaking on the floor, being on the floor, casting present votes, as we come to this conclusion here.
Well, anyone who's an observer of this institution knows the leaders are often not on the floor. The present votes were primarily in response to those bills where the reforms were incomplete. You know, as I said, we did have some success beginning to move forward. Where that ended is when we got responses, unfortunately, from the Democrats saying we can't go any further because the trial lawyers won't let us. We can't go any further because the unions won't let us. I never heard we can't go any further because the taxpayers won't let us. You know, we're here for the taxpayers of the state. I saw movement, and that's when I would cast a present vote, but it wasn't enough to create the fundamental change that we have to have in the state in order to stay competitive. And if anybody thinks we're not competitive, just look at the out-migration figures. It is the most frightening thing that we can possibly see. And it's not old people, it's millennials, it's families. They are leaving the state, and they're leaving it for better jobs, for a less expensive cost of living. And unless we change things here, they will continue to leave.
Governor, a few weeks ago,
Monique.
Governor, can you talk about the lack of trust here? Speaker Madigan says that Democrats in his chamber simply don't trust you to negotiate in good faith. They point to the Senate talks where they say that you moved the ball forward or you interfered and pulled votes off of the deal.
I applaud the senators who I believe worked in good faith for months to get a balanced budget with changes to fix our system. And I applaud the senators, Democrats and Republicans, who came together. They passed real procurement reform. Not the procurement reform that I recommended. It didn't go as far as I think we need to go on procurement reform, but as a compromise, I would sign that bill. It's a compromise. It's about halfway to what we should have gotten. It was a compromise. I support that, and I applaud the senators for doing that. Same thing on pension reform. The senators, Democrats and Republicans, came together and passed a real pension reform bill. I applaud them for that. It didn't go as far as I would prefer. It didn't go as far as I think taxpayers need, but it's a compromise. I would sign that bill. It would be part of a balanced budget and be a step in the right direction. As they got closer on other issues, term limits, consolidation, local government consolidation, very important. Workers' comp, very important. And then the single biggest thing we need, true property tax relief that's lasting. Speaker Madigan and the House Democrats sent a lot of special interest groups, a lot of lobbyists over, pressured the Senate Democrats very harshly, and killed the deal. They gave up at the end, and the grand bargain failed. But what we can never do is give up. The people of Illinois demand change. We need to go in a better direction on jobs and taxes and schools. And we cannot let the House majority, with their special interest groups, dictate terms. We just need to stay strong, get a balanced budget with changes to fix our system.
Governor,
yes, sir.
You traveled around the state, talked about the budget. I suspect you're going to be doing it again this summer. How is that less of a sham? How did you create less phony headlines than you accused the Democrats of doing, of going to get input from the public?
When I go to communicate to the people of Illinois the status of how broken our system is and what we need to do to get a balanced budget, that's an essential part of what I do. Hearings about a budget, hearings, we're taking public testimony about a budget now, after the end of the General Assembly, that's not real hearings about getting a balanced budget. That is a sham. That is a sham to manage you to write up headlines and to get phony headlines. That's not real change. We should be negotiating the final terms. They know darn well where we are apart, what we need to do to cut, what we need to do to reform the system. The majority in the House knows darn well what's done, what needs to be done. They're not doing it. They're leaving Springfield and going to try to create phony headlines for you to report around the state. And that's a dereliction of duty. This is a fundamental dereliction of duty by the majority in the General Assembly.
May I have a follow-up, please, Governor? May I have a follow-up to that? Just a follow-up question. It's right on the same subject, Governor.
The new date, the new goal line.
I'm sorry?
Why do you think June 30th there might all of a sudden be some kind of compromise? Won't it be harder? They're looking for Republican votes on a tax. So all of a sudden by June 30th folks are going to agree?
To me, we should have had a balanced budget 2 years ago. And we can never give up. We need truly balanced budgets in this state, and we need reforms to grow more jobs. And we need reforms to protect our property taxpayers. We can do this. Now the majority that's controlled the spending in this state for decades, we didn't get to $180 billion in debt because they were doing their jobs properly. They do not like to have balanced budgets, but we've got to live within our means. It's not fair to our children and grandchildren. We in Illinois have created deficit spending for so many years that we're leaving $180 billion of debt onto our children and grandchildren. That is immoral. We've got to stop doing this. And the only way we can pay down the debt and get a better future for our children and our grandchildren is to grow more jobs in the state. The key to doing that is to get property tax relief. Property taxes are the #1 tax pushing our employers out of the state and pushing our working families who can't afford to stay in their homes. We need true, lasting property tax relief, and we need reforms to be more competitive and grow more jobs.
Last question.
Governor, the state constitution seems to say that if we don't have a budget approved by you in the General Assembly, that we can't spend most money, non-emergency money. But in fact, we're going to be spending $7 billion or more that we don't have. We're already approaching $15 billion. We're going to be over $20 billion soon. And the credit rating agencies are going to lower the boom in July, they've announced. What are you going to do about it? I mean, how can this, let's postulate everything you've said is true. What are we going to do about the fact that we're still overspending all these billions? Christine Radonio has the number of the daily, how it breaks out daily. I think you're lowballing it. What are you going to do?
demand that the General Assembly majority be here in Springfield and negotiate a compromise, truly balanced budget with changes to fix our system. This is what we have to do. We can never give up. I work 24/7. The General Assembly needs to be here, not traveling around the state holding sham hearings, getting a truly balanced budget. We could have and should have done this 2 years ago. The people of Illinois expect it to be done. You can't find anyone in the state of Illinois that won't say, we need to get more jobs in this state, make our economy more competitive. You can't find anyone in the state of Illinois who won't say, we need property tax relief. Our property taxes are too darn high. Democrats feel it just as passionately as Republicans in this state. This is about good government. These issues, these changes to our system are not partisan. They are about good government. They are about fixing our system for all the people of Illinois, irrespective of political party. But what we have here is insiders who've been in power for decades, who created the current system and refuse to change it. They and their cronies are making a lot of money from the current system. They don't want to change it. And we need the people of Illinois to understand what's at stake. We need to change our broken system. That means true, lasting property tax relief. And we need to protect our taxpayers. Our taxpayers should come first. They need to be protected. We need a balanced budget. And the key to doing that is growing our economy. Now, when I first became governor 2 years ago, I proposed $6 billion in cuts to get to a balanced budget, more than $6 billion in cuts. My recommendations were ignored by the majority in the General Assembly, and they just went on and passed a more than $4.5 billion out of balance budget. That year, it never went anywhere, and then last year, they didn't even pass any budget whatsoever. This is a dereliction of duty, the part of the majority in the General Assembly. We need to fight for our taxpayers, make sure they're protected, bring down our property tax burden, it's the highest in America, and most importantly, grow more jobs in the state of Illinois. That's the key to our future, a better life for our children and our grandchildren. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you.